Hey, it's Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Unwritten. And here we are together with Shauna Thayer. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for spending some time with me and my audience today. Could you please just fill everybody in kind of who you are, what you do, maybe a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So I'm Shauna Thayer. I've worked in corporate marketing for probably about 17 years, business to business, nonprofit, you name it. I've done it and I've enjoyed that. I've loved that. I never planned on being a business owner. I love collaboration. I love people. I never thought I would step out and start my own business, but here I am almost 3 years later. I loved the organization I was working for at the time and the mission, but I was really burnt out. And I knew that because my creative spark was gone. I had no creativity left, and I'm a creative person. And I remember telling my boss when I was leaving, I said, I have nothing left to give. And that's all I could get out. I was like, I have poured out and I have nothing more to give. And I knew that was a time to change. And so it was also just overwhelm, overwork, pouring into a mission I loved, but at the cost of my health, my family time, all those things. And so I wanted to start something of my own because I knew that being a mom was so important to me. Family first was so important to me. And I wanted to build a culture around that. So for 2 years, I interviewed other entrepreneurs. I prayed over it. I cried over it, all the things for like 2 years, and then decided to step out on my own. And I'm so glad I did. And so the idea was really to work with small businesses who were overwhelmed by their marketing. They didn't know where to start. They are doing amazing work in the world, in their communities. They just don't know how to talk about it. They don't know the pain points of their clients. They don't have strategy around their marketing. And so that was something that I was really looking to do with Bloom Creative is tie strategy and creativity together to really make an impact for my clients. So that's where I'm at today and absolutely loving it. So grateful I took the leap. And yeah, now I get to just work with great people doing great work.
So you are a mom and you do have a family. And I'm sure that income that you had from your full-time job was, like, probably super important, and I know for me, when I took that leap, it was really scary. Like, where's the money gonna come in? And so, how did you kind of handle that stress? I mean, it's a real fear, it's a real stress.
Yeah. I just got chills when you said that. When like, where's that money gonna come from? Like, I got chills because I remember thinking that, and which is why I had someone on the sidelines at baseball earlier this year say, "You just up and left your job and started a business." And I was like, "Oh no." And my husband kind of laughed because he was like, "She did not." Like, she took years of interviewing people. I had a list of questions that I asked every entrepreneur, and I had pros and cons lists, and I had all these things. And one of the last entrepreneurs I interviewed, I wanted to feel prepared. I did all the research. I wanted to make sure I knew everything before I got into it to succeed. And she was like, "Sounds like you have everything you need except the confidence to know you can do it." And I was like, "Yeah, where do I get that?" She,
Amazon.
right. I was like, and so that's what I found out is like, it's really you. It's really, I had faith in my skills. I had faith in, almost 20 years of working in marketing and knowing that I could provide good work. It's just that business ownership, getting clients for yourselves that scared me. And so, yeah, we are a dual income family. And so that was a real concern of like, can I make this work? And my husband was like, "Shauna, if it doesn't work, you can always go get another job." Like,
Yeah.
there was kind of getting to the point where I was like crying pretty often about the stress of my corporate job. It was bleeding into my family time. My husband's like, "You're not happy.
Mm.
You're stressed out. You're getting calls at all hours of the day." And my youngest son, he was like, "What do you do for work?" And I said, "I do marketing. Why, buddy?" And he said, "Well, whatever it is, I don't want to do that because your laptop is open all the time and your coworkers call at all hours of the day." And at the time, he was like 6 or 7. And I still get like chills when I think about that because I was like, that is not the kind of mom I want to be. But I'm also like, I take my work really seriously and I pour myself into it. But being a mom and family was first for me, and that wasn't in alignment. And so I prayed over it and was like it's easy to walk in faith when you have a salary, right? And be like, "This is
That should
great."
be a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. It should. Oh my gosh, yes, let's get coffee mug. But to step out in faith and trust that God will provide a way is a whole different
It's so
different thing.
scary.
It's so scary. And so I would say to anybody like who's thinking about doing it, certainly do your research. Like interviewing those 10 entrepreneurs was a great thing. Told me what I needed to know. Some of the things I already knew, some I didn't, but then just praying really over it. I'm not someone who's quick to make decisions. I don't regret that timeline. It's what I needed to feel comfortable. But yeah, that's kind of how I got the start.
And what were some of the ways that you marketed yourself right away?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I think a lot of businesses, when they start out, they think, I have to have the business cards or I have to have. For me, I gave my past employer, I think it was almost a month and a half or 2 months notice and just said, I want to make sure I wrap up things here. But I started telling people that I was leaving, like, hey, I'm starting this thing. If think of anybody who needs, my type of services, I know you've worked with me. So I had a really big network in the Madison area just from working there for almost 20 years, which really did help. So I know people say network, 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 but it truly is really important. And I believe that even I do digital marketing, but I think in-person networking, phone calls, networking events, email, like what that one-on-one stuff, you can't replace that. Now I do think digital marketing is important. Of course, I did launch a website right away and social media, but those are just, I feel like add-ons to business development, which is done a lot in person, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I agree. And, then the in-person networking it's relatively cheap. I mean, it's
yeah.
time, but it's a really great way to get in and just start meeting people.
Well, Stephanie, let me give this example. So, those 10 female entrepreneurs that I interviewed, I said, "Can you meet me for coffee?" Some of them live too far away and we met over Zoom, and I sent them like a $5 Starbucks gift card and said, "Let's please meet for coffee on me."
Mhm.
And then one of them turned into like one of my largest clients. She was an entrepreneur and now she does something else, and that company hired me. So, like, it's funny kind of how that can, and actually another one I now partner with. Again, that network, you never know where it's going to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, and who they're gonna tell and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
S And if you could go back and change maybe one thing that you like, maybe a mistake that you had made at the beginning, or did you make any mistakes? And, you
Oh
know
my gosh, yes. Well, I mean, right, like I think that's the thing too is y- I I am someone who loves a plan. So I am like, let's get it all laid out. Let's get it all figured out before I start. And that is the one thing I would say you can't. And maybe I would have started sooner if I didn't feel that way, right? Like I
Mhm.
felt like I needed to have everything perfect and figured out. And that's just not the case. There are so many things. My website, my offers, how I talk about my business looks different than it did 3 years ago. And it's going to look different in another 2 years. I hope it does,
Yes. Yeah.
like, we are learning and growing. I consider myself like a lifelong learner, which I love. Like, we need to, especially in the digital and marketing space. Things are always changing. But yeah, so don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to look silly in the beginning. Like, I know at first you're like, "Oh gosh, I'm starting a business and people are, what are they thinking?" That's something that I struggled with. Like, what are they
Mhm.
thinking? I've worked in corporate marketing for so many years. Who am I to start a business? And that's our own voice in our head, and we need to just kind of push past that. So I wish I could have pushed past that a little bit sooner, but it's there. And I think just acknowledging it and learning as you go is really important.
Yeah, I think that fear that we have that someone's waiting for us to fail or someone's gonna
Yeah.
make fun of us or, for me, what kept me really small in my business for a long time was being afraid to charge, a decent amount because I was afraid my clients would be mad at me.
Yeah.
And it was a real fear for about 3 years. I knew. So then I got a marketing coach and I got a business and I spent all this money that I did not have for people to just basically tell me to just not be fearful. And it
Yeah.
worked, I guess. Like, I wish I would've, saved that money and gone on a nice vacation or with my family or something, but.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think in the beginning, charging what I thought they could afford.
Oh, mm,
Charging what I thought they could afford. They would
mhm.
reach out to me and say, "I need this," or "I need that." And in my mind, I knew what that was worth, but I knew gosh, this business is just starting, or it's a friend of a friend, or it's, a nonprofit or those kind of things. And I certainly do have like corporate pricing and nonprofit pricing now that's pretty set, which is now makes it so easy for me because I was like, here's the cost. But before that guessing game was so stressful for me because I felt like it was a moving target and it was really based more on my emotion than anything they were saying. So I wouldn't even put that on them. And I don't think that's fair either because I don't really know the inside of their business, right? So I
Right.
was guessing things I didn't really know.
Yeah. And did you hire a coach at all? Have you done coaching or
I did not. Like I said, I have pages of extensive notes. Again, like
okay, you
if
did
you're
on
gonna
some
start,
level.
yes,
Yeah.
if you're gonna start, like that was free, right? I mean,
Mhm.
relatively free. I bought coffee for people or lunch and just said, "Can I pick your brain?" And I had pages of women entrepreneurs saying, "I did this and it was a mistake. I didn't do this. I wish I had done that." So I started. I felt like in a really good place. I have one woman in particular who was so transparent with me, Stephanie. She was like, here's what I made my first year. Here's what I did with charging. Here's an example of, and I told her, I said, most people are not willing to share at this level. Thank you. Like, and she said, yeah, I'm here to help other women succeed in this too. And so that was just such a gift. And I think the more we can do that, I love when people reach out and I'm only, 3 years in, but I love to share if they can like skip a few steps that I did. That's great. This past year, I did take a course, and I know I do feel like there's a lot of fatigue on online courses and things like that right now. So I would say if you're gonna purchase from a coach or an online course, really do your research and make sure they are an expert in what you need to make sure you're
Mm,
really getting out of it what you
yeah.
need for the investment. But I did invest in a business coach this year, and it was a group program, but it helped me kind of organize. She's like a systems strategist, which is not me. I'm more the creative, the marketing, the branding, the data, the insights type of person. So, from just a business structure, organizational system standpoint, that was huge. That really helped.
Yeah. I think that's, like, where I have always struggled too. My other biggest struggle is when I get really busy and overwhelmed, I wanna jump ship and start something new. So, I have a friend that's like, Don't jump ship, get help."
Yeah. You know what I heard the other day, which I was like, that makes sense. It said like entrepreneurs a lot of times, which I still don't consider myself that because again, I never
Okay.
thought I would be, but
Well,
I
you
am.
are.
I am. But it was like entrepreneurs, we do tend to be like, oh, look, this idea, that idea. And this
Mhm.
business coach that I worked with this past year, she was like, that is the number one mistake she sees people make, or one of them,
Oh.
because she said entrepreneurs do have like tons of good ideas. And instead of staying the course and kind of doing it's just like diet too, right? Like if you stick to your diet 365 days or most of it, right, it's going to work. That
Mhm.
consistency over time in dieting, in marketing, in relationships, like any of that's going to pay off. So I think sometimes it's easy to, like you said, be like, oh, I need to switch this or change this. It's like, well, how long have you been trying it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think that, when we get really busy with business and it's so exciting to be so busy, we think it's gonna last forever or we're gonna self-sabotage, and there's just so much mental fatigue that goes into running your own business, even if it's not, a beginning business, and I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that. I don't think I give myself enough credit for, like, just the mental
Load.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I did the same thing. I quit my full-time job so that be I could be the mom I needed to be. And in some aspects I did. I did that. I was able to go on field trips and my kids are thriving, but I also it takes a toll on me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Where
I I feel that too, and I think that, like, it's probably so normal. Everyone I talk to, it's right, like, it's our responsibility. It's not just punching in, punching out, going home at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
It is our responsibility to grow it, to think of what does the business look like in 5 years, that kind of stuff, which I think is exciting and scary. I think for me, I don't know how I would be an entrepreneur if I didn't have a level of faith. For me, that is like my anchor. That is my like trust. Actually, this sermon this past Sunday, I was like, okay, I hear you. Like, I think you're speaking to me. I hear you. And it was like, right, like, give us this day our daily bread, right? Like, and just trust that like will be
Mhm.
provided for each and every day, no matter the
Mhm.
circumstances. Like things will change, but like trust, like the word trust is so big. And so I trust in my like abilities I've been given. I am willing to like work hard, but also to trust that I'm not in control of everything, right? Like there needs to be a level of like letting go, trusting that you worked hard, trusting in your gifts, trusting in how you show up for your clients, and then trusting that, God will kind of create a path from there.
And how do you reconnect with your not only your faith, but your creativity, your self-love? What are some of the things that you do?
Yeah, like I mentioned, right before I left my job, I could just we've all had that before, I'm sure, where you feel drained, you feel empty. You're like, this is not, I can't create because I'm empty, you know? And
Mhm.
like you said, you have to pour back into yourself. You have to figure out how to spark that creativity. And so for me, it's a couple things. Like I said, I'm someone also, I am a warrior, like by nature. I am. So that is hard as an entrepreneur. And so for me, Stephanie, that's starting the day. Actually, I get up a little bit before my boys get up. I am not the person who's like up at 4 a.m. doing 3 hours of like, you know,
Yeah.
all the things that you hear about. But I get up just a little bit early enough to spend some time in my devotional with a cup of coffee in the morning in
Mhm.
the quiet. And that starts my day. Honestly, like if that quiet, intentional time starts my day in like such a great direction, kind of calms any worry, anxiety. I have noticed if I skip that, it does make a difference. And for me, nature, like, and I think that's so important to us as people. I've been wrestling with this, Stephanie, is like, as a digital marketer, I spend so much time online, but I'm actually reading a book right now on digital detox because I also think our brains and our bodies need to be detached from constant input from digital channels. I think they're a tool, but they can't become everything. And
Yeah.
so unplugging, getting out in nature, and some people aren't nature people. They're not going to go camping or something, but even a walk out in nature without input is life-giving, I believe.
Yeah. I've had to train my brain. I'm pretty good at it now where, um, I go on hikes every day,
Yes.
but I've done something probably like the last 5 months, 6 months where, um, I just delete the apps off my phone,
Yeah.
and then it's like you go to because so much of it is just you're used to it.
Habit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so helpful, and I put my phone away, and I go do something else, and I come back, it's like, "Oh, somebody texted me," instead of being, like, on my phone trying to read something, somebody's that overwhelm,
Yep.
and it's
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because there's so many different ways people in our lives can get a hold of us, clients can get a hold of us, right? Like that's another thing I do and I would suggest to someone new in business is define the ways that clients can get a hold of you. If you have a
Mhm,
Slack channel and text and direct message and they can DM you on Instagram and Snapchat and all this stuff, it's overwhelming to check all that.
mhm.
And to just even carry that in your brain of like, I need to check all those things. Like it's too
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah, I know. So now that we're digital detoxing, but what is your favorite platform to share your story and your business on?
well, that is such a great question. So, I Bloom Creative, I'm on Facebook and Instagram are the two platforms I'm on. Of course, I have a
Mhm,
website, but I'm a big fan of Instagram, which I honestly think just my demographic, like who I am, fits on Instagram.
mhm.
I do use Facebook, but I prefer Instagram. I just think it's a more fun, artistic, creative outlet than Facebook, in my opinion. But that's not the case for every business. When I work with clients and we start defining where they should be, I'm like, it's less about where you want to be and more about like where your ideal client is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, so we kind of talk about that too.
Yeah, but I think it's important to have something that you enjoy
Oh,
posting
for
on,
sure.
because if you're not posting, then you're not being seen,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think a lot of people, they get stuck in their head about it?
Yeah. A lot of my clients are not on it. Like they aren't using it. So that's a lot of times why they come to me. They're like, I know I should be on social media, but I don't know how to show up. Like I don't know
Mhm,
how. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to create a consistent rhythm around it. So actually, most, if not all of my clients, I help with social media strategy to tie into their business goals, and a content creation rhythm so that it doesn't feel hard. Because if you're ever like on your computer and you've got Facebook up and there's a blinking cursor, it's, not fun.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I do believe that so many people have a fear over being seen, and it does inhibit their business growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know that from like we did my portraits not too long ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the person behind the camera, not in front of the camera. Like, I am so good at telling clients, like, you got this. It's okay. Like, you're the face of the brand. You need to be in front of the camera and you look great and you sound great and all those things. And then when it became my job to get in front of the camera, I was like, oh no, this is not as comfortable. But I think it's important, and I've said this to a couple clients. I think moving into 2026, like people are going to be the difference.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people in the marketing space. There are a lot of people in the photography space. And so sometimes I think we get in our heads too about the market's too saturated. Like they don't need another marketing professional. They don't need another photographer going on Instagram talking, right? Like, well, they do because they're all you are you and you got into it with a unique set of skills and a story that is different from other people. And I think when people aren't confident sharing their own stories, sometimes they look at others in their industry and they say, well, they're successful. I'm going to just try to do it like that. And that doesn't really work because you're not that person, you know? And so I know it is so hard, but it's a muscle that you build over time.
Yeah.
Getting online, I don't know anybody who like loves to be in front of a camera. Maybe people get there, but initially most people don't like to be in front of a camera or they don't like the sound
Right.
of their voice. It takes
Right.
time and you just got to do it.
But we love money. We love clients, and that's
Yeah.
the only way to
Yeah.
like,
I
we
will
have to figure that out.
Yeah. I will share one of the entrepreneurs, and she was like the first or second person that I interviewed. And she was like, actually, I'm not doing it anymore. And she was like a year and a half in. And she said, I left. I had some clients, but I didn't do much business development or outreach. She didn't promote herself. She didn't do any of those business development or marketing activities that kept clients coming in knowing about her business. And
Yeah.
she was, like you said, you have to kind of I work from my home. I know you work from
Mhm.
your home. Like we're not in business settings where people are seeing us. So we have to make sure that we're kind of a part of that digital landscape so people are seeing us.
Yeah, and getting over that fear and understanding that the things we don't like about ourselves are sometimes what our clients love about us, you know? Like, we're our worst enemies sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have found too, it's really not about you, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
really not about you. It should be about your client anyway. If you love on them, if you show up for them, if you work so hard for them, that's really what's going to make the difference. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So just do that. Find what they are interested in. Find out what their clients are struggling with. Help them define those things. And, you're in a lot better situation. So,
yeah. So let's say I am just starting out in business and I don't know where to start, so I call you. What are some of the things that you like to go through with your clients so you can kinda get a better idea of what they need? How do you define what your clients' needs are?
oh my gosh, I love this question so much because this is where I started. I took out when I was starting Bloom Creative, I opened a notebook and I started with two questions. One, like my values. I just started writing words
Mm,
down, like words. Like what do I represent? What do I want clients to feel? And I know that's not where most people start. I will say when I work with business owners, a lot of them are like, I have business cards, I have a logo. And I'm like, okay, great. Who do you serve? Like, who's your client?
yeah,
So I think it's so important to just sit down and really think about what your values are as a business owner, as a company. Write down those words. Just start, brain dump on a piece of paper, and then start circling them and narrowing them down. For me, it was trust. And that is something that comes up. I wanted to be a trusted partner. I actually
yeah,
have a client who said, she's like, it's hard to know who to trust in marketing, right? Or
mhm,
even business. Like, do they have my business and my interests is that important to them, or are they just trying to, right, make some money as a me as a client and move on, right?
Mhm.
And so when I get testimonials from people, when I see the word trust in there, because that's a core value of mine that I want clients to feel about my brand, I'm so happy that they feel that, you know?
I
Um,
love that.
I
I'm
would,
just gonna stop because you just said something really important, how my clients feel about my brand. I think that's such an important
yeah.
piece.
And I have another client who said she's kind of had some bad experiences with marketing teams, marketing companies, marketing agencies, and it breaks my heart because I'm like, we're not all like that. Like, please, like there is, and I had actually someone recently say to me, she's like, I was going to go into marketing, but I felt like it was a lot of like trickery and tricking people into things. And I was like, no, no,
No.
no, no, like, please, no. And I said, no, I said, I will tell clients if like this isn't what you need or this is what you need, you know? And so I had a client recently say to me, tell me what to do because I trust you. And again, that is the biggest compliment I can get because I want people to know that like their businesses are important to me. I'm their biggest cheerleader and they feel that. They feel that I care about their team, their business, their goals as much as my own. We win together.
Yeah.
And that's what makes my business successful, you know, is their success. So you can't do it alone. Partner with your clients that way, and it's going to be a win-win. So those are the two things I would say if you were starting out is one, define those values and then weigh every decision against it, you know? And then the other thing is, what was I going to say? I did have another one. Oh my goodness. Oh, your client. We talked about that too. Like, who are you serving? Because I think that's another thing when I started is I was so broad because and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think when you start, it's like, I need some experience. I need to build my portfolio up. Sure, I'll do this. Sure, I'll do that. But then people, my sister actually said, I don't really know what it is you do. And I was like, that's because I do all these things, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so I would say it's okay to have a lot of services, but really knowing who you serve is important because you want that person to go, oh, she's talking to me. Like Stephanie, when I saw yours, it was like helping women over 40 to feel confident in front of the camera. I was like, that's me, that she's talking to me.
Yeah.
So you nailed that.
Well, thank you. I've been doing this a long time
Yeah.
and I've made like so many mistakes with my marketing, and even still people are like, "Well, I bet you're really busy with weddings." And it's like, where does it say I do wedding? Like I don't shoot I used to shoot
Yeah.
like I used to do
Yeah.
everything. I even
Yeah.
shot dog food, herbs for hexes on boyfriends. Like I shot everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was something. And it's the same thing. It's like I had to narrow it down. Like, what is it that I'm doing? What do I wanna feel when I wake up in the morning? What do I want my clients to feel? Like, I wanna feel good. I wanna feel like I'm making a difference, and then kind of building that clientele around that too is super important.
Yeah. And I would say that first year, me saying yes to any project,
Mhm.
I would do that again.
Yeah.
But I was building websites, I was doing social media management, I was doing graphic design. I have a degree in graphic design too. I was doing print collateral, digital collateral, all of it. And it really did help me that year to decide what really, I had someone say that too. She's like, you can tell you really get excited about this. But then there were other projects where I'm like, I don't get that same excitement.
Yeah.
And so while that year did help me build that portfolio, and it was so important as a dual income family as well,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
also helped me learn where I really wanted to focus.
Yeah. And not being afraid to say no.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that yet. So I think that's a really important topic is how do you choose, you know?
Yeah. And I think, in the beginning, you might not have the luxury to choose, and that's okay. Like, that's okay. I mean, just start out with that, right? But if
Yeah, I
you
mean, because you
do,
have to learn and it's painful, but no, you
yes.
really don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
I think
But
that's a structural, like,
But also,
society
yeah.
thing.
So I said yes to almost everything in the beginning, but there was one opportunity that I was like, it actually just like there's so much of like our gut that like we should be trusting. Like it
Mhm.
didn't feel right to me. And I was like, this just doesn't feel. And so there are ways to nicely say, like, I'm sorry, this just doesn't seem like a fit or it doesn't align, or, that's not the type of service. Cause you might have people that don't understand what it is exactly you do. And they might
Right,
ask you to do something, and you can say, like, I'm sorry, that's not a service I provide.
right.
I've had to say that to clients before. So saying no, and now almost 3 years in business, I have now the ability to say yes to things, and saying no to something actually does make some space for yeses. If you say no to something or you say yes to something that you're not really excited about and then something else comes, well, then you might not have the time for it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I think there's a mindset shift too that happens once you've got a little bit of confidence, right? So that's what you've been building the last 3 years is really just your confidence muscle. But
Yeah.
and the trust muscle is that the right clients are gonna come at the right time,
Yeah.
and it's your job just to be open and ready and as prepared as you can be for when they come, and if you're stressed out all the time, like, you're not gonna be the person that you want to be when the right
Yeah.
clients do show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I got into this business. I started this business to be a healthier version of me, to have
Mhm.
time for working out is something that's, I want to take care of myself. And that was something that I had pushed on the back burner and I was feeling the effects of. And so, this business, I want to be supportive of the lifestyle I'm choosing, which is faith, family, my health. Those things are really important to me. Just as I
Yeah.
have business values, I talk about the values of Bloom Creative and how I brain dump those. I also have those for my family, and we weigh decisions against those. There's things we say no to as a family because it doesn't align with our family values. So we're super intentional with that as well. But I was talking to my son about that too this morning. And I know when you're younger, they don't think about life that way, but trying to
Mhm.
simplify the conversations to say, like, what do you think you'll make time for when it's your choice? And that kind of thing, and getting him to think about what's important to make time for.
Yeah. I had a business my first business coach I hired, super expensive. She was $10,000. I did not this was during COVID. I did not have $10,000, so I put it on a credit card. I'm like, "Okay, she's gotta be worth it." And literally the only thing she did was pound in that I need to have joy in my life.
Really?
But it was brilliant. Over
Yes.
time,
Yes.
at first I was angry, I was mad for like 2 years, and then now it's like, "Okay, what am I doing today to bring joy?" And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so true, but, I needed somebody to help me understand that I'm important in all
Yeah.
this, and my
Yeah.
joy is important. It's not just about serving our clients and our family, it's about serving our own self, and,
Yeah.
it's actually been the gift that keeps giving because without her, I wouldn't think about it like I do.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about this before, but you do need to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't serve others,
Yeah.
truly. Like when I said, and I remember the look on my boss's face when I said, when I was still letting her know I was leaving, and I said, I have nothing more to give. What does she say to that? Like her face, she had no words. It's like, what do you say to somebody who's like, I am pouring from empty here,
Yeah,
So yeah, and that's why I think
and
it's
that's no
so
place to
important.
be when
No.
and I think sometimes we think like, "Okay, it's gonna get better," but it's way better just be like, "You know what? This isn't gonna work, and I can always come back if I need to."
Yeah. Yeah, that was the biggest help too when I was making the decision to leave is my husband going, "If it doesn't work, you can always get another job in marketing.
Mhm.
Like you can do that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess." But the fear was, but then everyone will know I failed, and I had to get over that and try, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and that's I mean, that that's a very fear of failure is honest, and I think that that holds a lot of us back. And I
yeah.
think it's these conversations that, like, we're having right now where it's like, "Oh, you're successful and you had fear?" Because a lot of people
Yeah.
think I'm fearless, like, all the things that have happened in my life and that I just keep going or make hard
Yeah.
choices, and it's like, uh, no, I'm just as scared as everybody else, but I just
Yeah.
don't let it stand in my way. I remember the first vacation I took as a single mom, like, I have a son in a wheelchair, they were, like, 13 and 3. I took a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old 2 13-year-olds to Gulf Shores, Alabama,
Oh my
like, in
gosh.
this rundown van that I had because I wanted to take a vacation with them, and
Yeah.
someone said, "Oh, I would be so scared to do that." And it's like, I white knuckled it all the way to freaking Gulf Shores,
Yes.
Alabama, but I did it anyways,
Yeah.
and I think that's, like, the most important thing is to just keep those fears aren't meant to hold you back.
Yeah.
They're meant for you to explore.
And it is really scary. I mean, I think everyone who tried something new has that fear.
Mhm.
And it is, you can get very, I actually just came across the journal the other day. I was like, I don't journal regularly, but like sometimes I do feel like it. And I grabbed it and I had opened it and I flipped back and they were pages from when I was deciding to leave. And it was really cool to look back on my thought processes. I had a pros and cons list going, and one of the pros for staying at my job and not leaving and starting Bloom Creative was security and comfort. Like I had
Mm,
those words under security and comfort.
mhm,
Well, I was also, it was the same thing every day. It was asking more and more of me. And so the con list ended up outweighing that. But those were heavy words. And I think when you're making those pros and cons lists sometimes too, the words have weight. Even if there's like a longer list on one side,
mm,
certain words carry more weight than
yeah,
just the list.
yeah, like, how much is it gonna cost for gas versus
Yes.
security, all that
Yeah.
stuff, totally.
Yeah.
But those are all valid things too, you know? I know for me, I have to make sure that I spend some time, even if I have a long day and it's just editing, that I spend some time at a coffee shop. Like, I have to be around another person to
Yeah.
kind of, like, get my creative mind going.
Yes.
Um, so there's things I've definitely learned about myself through this process. What's, like, one thing that you've learned about yourself that you're kinda surprised at?
Yeah, I mean, I would say actually something that I feel like I'm learning just recently is I do like I knew I always loved collaboration and I still feel like I have good collaboration with my clients, but that's the piece I think I'm missing right now is like you said, Steph, that in person, like I love other creative minds to like bounce ideas off of. And I think when you and
Mhm,
I did our photos, we did that a little bit. It was like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? We were able to
mhm.
just like work on that together and so I've kind of got some ideas in mind of how I might serve people more in person where it's like a little bit of a workshop, but it's in person. Like, let's get out of this digital space again. As a digital marketer, I kind of laugh. I'm like, am I like having this shift? I think digital marketing is so important, but I almost want an in person piece of that too, where I have just a workshop where I can like pour into people in a different way. So that's kind of been on my heart lately. We'll see where it goes. But I feel like that's the piece that's missing and I would love more of is like pouring into people in person that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it actually right at the beginning, the networking, how important networking is, so it kinda makes sense that you're kinda bringing it back full circle, like, "Okay, this is what's happening here, is
Yeah.
it's important to network, it's important to unplug for a little bit and
Yeah.
collaboration," and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think too, it's you get different, if I'm in a room with 8 other business owners and I'm saying like, "What issues are you having and what are you seeing? And have you tried this?" And that kind of stuff. It's a different
Mhm.
conversation than having an online form that says like, "Submit your question and I'll answer it," or I'll email you back some suggestions. I just think there's nuance of I love talking to clients in person, even if it is video conversations, because sometimes you ask them a question and you hear what they're saying, but you also see like kind of some behind, oh God, like you can just tell this has been a pain point for them for longer than they're, sharing or that kind of stuff too. So we'll see where this in-person idea takes me. But
Yeah. Well, I know that that's how I met you,
yeah,
was your in-person thing for social media breakfast, so and you were wonderful, like, totally together. I learned a lot. I don't think
good.
I like, when you were going through it, I was like, "Holy crap, I should hire her," but I didn't, but I
Well,
could.
I will say the one thing, and that's I want women, I want business owners to feel as proud. I mean, how many of you have said when someone's like, "How's your business?" And you're like, "Good, but don't go to the website," or "Good, but I'm working on
Yeah,
my
oh,
logo,"
yeah, yeah, don't
or
go to yeah,
yeah, yeah. Don't go to my
yeah,
website. I'm working on it. Or I haven't changed my logo yet. Or, I mean, we should feel so proud of our brand and how it
yeah,
represents us. And like, I want people to feel as confident online and with their brand as they do in person. And I think sometimes, I think digital presence and brand is so important because, of course, we always start with strategy and how we make our clients feel. But then the visual part of that helps us build trust with customers that we are a legit company, that we are professional, that we're, consistent and all of that visual aid helps build that trust in the brand. and in you as the business owner, you know? So I think that's important. So in that presentation, I called it the art of branding, just went through some basics and I was like, gosh, am I giving them enough? Like, I feel like this is such easy information, but that's one of the things I think to remind business owners is you are the expert in your field. So what feels easy for you to share where you're like, oh, am I giving them enough? This seems so basic. Like most people don't know that level of
Right,
information
yeah,
in whatever
yeah.
topic you're sharing.
Or
So
if they do, they forgot,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. So I think to have that confidence also that like you are an expert in your field, like own that and, help others, not be like, oh gosh, they probably already know that, you know?
If someone were to take notes from today and just then every day as you're working on your business, like,
Hmm.
all these things that we've talked about, I do believe, like, we just gave some really great starter tips for somebody to start a business or a brand, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think we
no,
did
I
good.
hope yeah, just kind of and it can feel overwhelming, it really can, right? Like, I
Yeah.
get that. If you're like, "Where do I even start with branding or marketing?"
Mhm.
Start by defining your ideal client and start with your values, and
Mhm.
kind of everything will flow from there, but that's where
Yeah,
I would
and don't worry about the colors and the logo and the website, all that stuff will come.
not right away, but yeah. But then, when you do get to that point, I think it is important. A lot of small business owners do have to DIY it in the beginning, and that's
Mhm.
actually usually where most of my clients come to me. They're a couple years in business. They got it off the ground. It's running. It's not as professional looking as they would like. It's not as professional as they know they are
Yeah.
and they need an elevated presence for their clients to really take them as seriously as they should. And so then that's when I work with them on defining their values and some strategy, and we put like a visual representation to that too.
Yeah. Eventually, then you call Shauna
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
ready for that.
I had a client say I delivered a brand package for them, logo, fonts, colors. I do a brand guide for them and I delivered all this. And it's a husband and wife team on this business. My husband said, now our business has to be as professional as it looks. Like we need to now, like
Oh,
they felt like they needed to like up their own game to like, they were so happy with it, which made me happy. I was like, oh my gosh. But they were that professional.
yeah.
They just didn't know it. And now
Mhm.
we gave them this beautiful visual representation of themselves and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so aligned." So, that was really fun to see.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great spot to end on. So tell my audience, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks. I do love to connect with people. So I am on LinkedIn, just as Shauna Thayer, but you can go to bloomcreativeco.com and my Facebook, Instagram, everything you can access there. I think I even have LinkedIn on there, but I'm on Instagram, I would say the most in terms of DMs and everything. But if you go to bloomcreativeco.com, you'll find me there too.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to add before we end our podcast today?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
if you're thinking of making a change, it's been the best decision I've ever made. And I still, I was talking to my mom about it the other day and she said, like, well, it's because you're confident. And I was like, no, I certainly am not. So I feel like you white knuckling it to Gulf Shores and eventually, you're like, this is the best decision I ever made. Like, there's family
Mhm.
memories, there's a business now, there's whatever the goal was because of the hard decision that you made to start.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right, well, thank you so much.